And now to our newsmaker interview with the Vice President of the United States. I spoke with Vice President Biden this afternoon in the Secretary of War suite at the old Executive Office building in Washington. The first subject, the protests in Egypt. Mr. Vice President, welcome.
Good to be with you, Jim.
Has the time come for President Mubarak of Egypt to stand aside?
No, I think the time has come for President Mubarak to begin to move in the direction that to be more responsive to some of the needs of the people out there. A lot of the people out there protesting are middle-class folks who are looking for a little more access, a little more opportunity. And the two things we've been saying here, Jim, is that violence isn't appropriate, and people have a right to protest. And so, and we think that I hope President Mubarak, is going to respond to some of the legitimate concerns that are being raised.
You know President Mubarak.
I know him
fairly
well.
Talked to him about this?
I haven't talked to him in the last 3 days. Last time I haven't talked to him in about a month, but I speak to him fairly regularly, and I think that there's a lot going on across that part of the continent, from Tunisia into all the way to Pakistan, actually, and there's a lot of these countries are beginning to sort of take stock of where they are and what they have to do.
Some people are suggesting that we may be seeing the beginning of a kind of domino effect, similar to what happened after the Cold War in Eastern Europe. Poland came first, then Hungary, East Germany. We got Tunisia, as you say, maybe Egypt. Who knows? Do you smell the same thing coming?
No, I don't. I wouldn't compare the two. And okay. You and I used to talk years ago about what's going on in Eastern Europe. A lot of these nations are very dissimilar. They're similar in the sense that they're Arab nations. Dissimilar in the circumstance. For example, Tunisia has a long history of a more progressive middle class, a different set of circumstances, different relationship with Europe, for example. And the difference between Tunisia and Egypt is real beyond the fact that Egypt's the largest Arab country in the world. So I don't see any direct relationship other than there seems. It might be argued that what is happening in one country sparks whatever concern there is in another country. It may not be the same concern, it may not be even similar, but the idea of speaking out in societies where in the recent past there haven't been much of that occurring. But I think it's a stretch at this point, but I could be proven wrong. But I think it's a stretch to compare it to Eastern Europe.
The word to describe the leadership of Mubarak in Egypt and also in Tunisia before was dictator. Should Mubarak be seen as a dictator?
Look, Mubarak has been an ally of ours in a number of things that he's been very responsible on relative to geopolitical interest in the region, the Middle East peace efforts, the actions Egypt has taken relative to normalizing relationship with Israel, and I think that it would be. I would not refer to him as a dictator.
Mr. Vice President, should the United States be encouraging these protesters, whether they're in Tunisia or Egypt or wherever, they want their rights, and should we encourage them to seek them if it means going to the streets or whatever?
I think we should encourage both those who are, use your phrase, seeking the rights and the government to talk, to actually sit down and talk with one another, to try to resolve some of what are the interests that are being pursued by those who are protesting. Now, so far, there seems to be some differences. And historically, in the past, the concern was in some of these countries that some of the more radical elements of the society. More radicalized were the ones in the streets. Some might argue that what's going on in Lebanon was different than what's going on in Egypt in terms of who the protesting forces are. Hezbollah does not seem to be what is the nature of the protest that's going on in Egypt right now. But so not every one of these circumstances is the same, which is my point before. Sure. We're encouraging the protesters to, as they assemble, do it peacefully, and we're encouraging the government to act responsibly and to try to engage in a discussion as to what the legitimate claims being made are, if they are, and try to work them out.
Does the U.S. have any role to play in this?
I think the role we have to play is continuing to make it clear to us that we think violence is inappropriate on the part of either party, either of the parties, the government or the protesters.
But there was something said today, I think the President said, or the President's spokesman said, the United States is not going to take sides in this dispute in Egypt. Is that correct?
Well, look, I wouldn't characterize it as taking sides. I think that what we should continue to do is to encourage reasonable accommodation and discussion to try to resolve peacefully and amicably the concerns and claims made by those who have taken to the street. And those that are legitimate should be responded to, because the economic well-being and the stability of Egypt rests upon that middle class buying into the future of Egypt. So it's very much, I would argue, in the government's interest, but it's also in the interest of those who are seeking those rights. Again, that's different than some protests that occur in that region of the world that are really designed to overthrow a government for the purpose of establishing an autocracy that is more regressive than anything that exists.
New subject.